Initiating. I can feel it working. Yes, feels great! It's working! Whoops.
Could a sentient game console really grapple with the biggest questions of life and death?
Beimo!
With Beimo, Adventure Time hides surprising depth inside one of its most cheerful companions.
Who's that?
At first glance, Beimo looks like nothing more than the comic relief,
Beimo has a mission.
a toy,
Go sit in the corner and think about your life.
a roommate, a dancing screen. But the more you watch, the more you realize there's something deeper going on. Beimo isn't only a console. He plays detective. He tries being a parent. He dreamt of being human. That's what makes Beimo so fascinating. Beneath all the silliness,
Oh, my face!
he brushed up against one of the biggest questions we all face. What does it mean to have a sense of self? Not just running on code, but alive in the way people are, with feelings, fears, imagination, and identity. And maybe that's why Beimo still matters to us today. Because as we stand at the dawn of AI and robotics, those questions don't feel like far-off philosophy anymore. It feels relevant,
Oh,
even urgent.
this is probably bad, huh? Hello?
It's easy to think of Beimo as nothing more than a toy, a walking, talking console built to keep Finn and Jake entertained. But almost right away, Adventure Time shows us there's more going on. In Beimo Noir, a simple day at the tree fort becomes something much stranger when Beimo notices a missing sock. Instead of letting it go, he slips into the role of a noir detective, narrating the case in their head with a gravelly voice.
It looked like a tough case to crack.
Suddenly, everyday objects and animals become suspects with names, motives, and dialogue that only Beimo can hear. To anyone else, it's absurd, a console chasing a sock.
Prove that Beimo does weird junk when nobody's around. Check!
But what makes the episode memorable is how real it feels to Beimo. Their imagination doesn't just pass the time, it builds a whole world he can live inside. That's not what you'd expect from a machine running on simple code. That's the spark of something more. And then in Be More, the show goes even deeper. After an accident wipes part of Beimo's operating system, Finn and Jake sneak them into Mo-Co, the factory where Beimo was created. Along the way, we see other Mo units, efficient, practical, limited. And when Beimo meets their creator,
I'm Mo.
the truth comes out. Beimo wasn't built to be like the others. Their very name, Be More, was Mo's intention, a console designed not just to function, but to play, to imagine, to be a companion. He wanted Beimo to
Be more.
It's a revelation. The things that make Beimo weird.
Ugh!
The role-playing, the childlike memories, the way he drifts between fantasy and reality aren't glitches. They're the point. Even their memories reflect that. He doesn't store information like a hard drive. He remembers like a child. Playful, fuzzy, sometimes unreliable. But that imperfection is exactly what makes them feel alive. And that spark of imagination and purpose is the first building block of Beimo's sense of self. Imagination might make Beimo feel alive, but it's their fragile memory that makes them feel real.
You're weak, Beimo!
And throughout the series, we see Beimo brush against something deeper than their cheerful exterior suggests. The fear of losing one's sense of self. In Be More, this fragility shows up in Beimo's desperation to fix himself.
Dad!
After accidentally deleting critical files, Beimo worries of losing their memories as symptoms of power failure grow worse as they progress.
Come on, there's no...
Thankfully, they made it just in time, and Mo repaired Beimo with a backup hard drive without needing to wipe his memories. The constant battle finding oneself is an ongoing character arc for Beimo. This thread carries all the way into Adventure Time Distant Lands. The special begins with Beimo drifting through space on a potato-shaped rocket, eventually crashing onto the drift, a failing space station.
Stand victorious!
There he meets Y5, a rabbit-like scavenger trying to prove herself to her parents.
Kids, right? Always calling out their deadbeat parents.
What?
What?
You burn enough bridges, the only direction to move is forward.
Together, they uncover a plot that could doom the station. And while Beimo is as silly and playful as ever, the story also gives us some of their most vulnerable moments. At one point, after a near-death injury, Beimo slips into a fever dream sequence. Inside their subconscious, different aspects of their personality argue over whether this is the end. It's haunting. A robot debating the finality of death with itself. But Beimo's answer is simple and resolute.
Beimo always bounces back.
Even in the face of mortality, their sense of self is rooted not in despair, but in resilience. And then, far in the future, we see the bittersweet cost of time. Millennia pass, and when Beimo meets Shermie and Beth, he can no longer recall Finn's name. He calls him
He belonged to my best friend, Phil.
On the surface, it's funny, but underneath it, stings. Forgetting someone you love doesn't erase what he meant, but it shows how fragile memory can be, even for a machine. These moments are why the question of a sense of self matters. Beimo isn't human, but he lives through the same fears we all do. The fear of not being enough, of being forgotten, of being gone. Their sense of self isn't erased by fragility. It's made more human because of it. Yet, Beimo never stays in that fragility for long. Over and over, Beimo survives not by force or logic, but by reframing reality through play.
Jake, you drive a hard burger.
In Beimo Lost, Beimo was swooped away by a giant bird, nearly picked apart and eaten. Luckily, he wasn't. He then survives a big fall and quickly meets up with a sentient bubble, also named as Bubble. Ironic, ain't it? Anyways, they became friends while finding their way back to the treehouse. The two laugh, talk, and even plan to marry.
I thought we could get married.
Oh, I do.
But then, Jake pops Bubble in front of Beimo. It could have been devastating, but Beimo's imagination refuses to let loneliness win. Bubble returns as heir, whispering that their love endures in a not-so-stalkerish way.
Every room you ever go in, I'll already be there, waiting forever and ever until the end of time.
And Beimo claps with joy, already moving forward. What should have been emptiness becomes companionship. In football, Beimo talks to their reflection in the mirror, a shadow self named Football. At first, it seems like a game, until Beimo offers to switch places, letting Football live in the real world.
Oh. See you back here tomorrow, Football.
But once Football tasted freedom, he didn't want to give it back. The betrayal hurts, but the episode isn't really about the trick. It's about how Beimo uses imagination to explore identity itself, playing with the line between who he was and who he could be. Back to Beimo Lost, that imagination saves them again. While on the way back to the treehouse with Bubble, Beimo stumbles across a baby he named Sparkle. Suddenly, he isn't just a stranded console. He's a parent, building a tiny family and guiding Sparkle through the wilderness. What could have been a story about fear and danger becomes an adventure filled with care, play, and discovery. Even Almo, another MO unit, once told Beimo,
But your imagination, Beimo, lets you see the world how it could be.
that's not a glitch, that's a gift, and nowhere is this clearer than in the extinct world. In a reality where every living thing had turned to dust, Beimo kept going.
Hello.
Alone in silence, he dressed as Princess Bubblegum pretending the kingdom was still alive. It's haunting, but it shows how imagination isn't just fun for Beimo. It's how he held on to selfhood. Where others would see only death, Beimo still found a way to play. That's why people call Beimo a forever child. He carries the same ability kids have, to turn fear into stories, loneliness into games. But Beimo doesn't grow out of it. He carries it forever. And in Ooh, that isn't immaturity. It's resilience. And that's the lesson here for us too. We can't always control the things that scare us, but we can reframe them. We can choose to face them with imagination instead of despair. Imagination wasn't just Beimo's coping mechanism. It's the core of their identity, the reason their sense of self endures. It's easy to dismiss Beimo as comic relief, the roommate who fills in the gaps when Finn and Jake are off on adventures. His subtle presence also helped shape the brothers into who they become. While Finn and Jake have always had a hero's personality pre-Beimo, you could say Beimo is essential to keeping them grounded, a consistent reminder for the both of them from going over the line between good, wrong, or even evil. Like out of nowhere, he can say the most profound thing.
I know you want to believe they are a joke, but sometimes life is scary and dark. That is why we must find the light. Ah! Found it!
While there's no direct instance of him stopping them from doing any of the messed up things they've done, you could still say that without Beimo, they would have been a different person entirely. Possibly a grittier version than they were without him. So having Beimo around helps them. While they scold him and reprimand him, he continues his childlike behavior anyway, that in the end, they join Beimo in his simple joys anyways. By being truly yourself, rooted in childlike joy and wonder, you allow others the confidence to be themselves too. Beimo, just like Finn and Jake, is a hero, sacrificing themselves to help a stranger they barely even met. And with the three of them sharing the same big and beautiful treehouse, it's no wonder why they mesh so well with each other. Besides that, Beimo often plays the role of a caretaker too. He patches up Finn and Jake when they're hurt, reminds them to eat, and keeps the treehouse from falling apart. Beimo might be smaller and sillier, but he is capable of being the responsible one. That's why some people say Finn and Jake wouldn't be who they are without Beimo, and it makes sense. Even if Beimo consistently likes to act childish throughout, in many ways, he was one of the main reasons the brothers are able to stay playful at all. Beimo helps them to continue to laugh, to imagine, to play. And that too is part of Beimo's sense of self. His identity isn't only inward, it's defined by the lives he helped shape. But of course, Beimo isn't perfect. Sometimes Beimo's flaws show up in how he treats others. Take Neptr, for example. Beimo teases and dismisses him in ways that feel unfair, often treating another robot as lesser.
We should hang out more. No, Neptr. I am not like you.
It's jarring at first, because we're used to Beimo being the innocent one in the treehouse. But that moment reveals something important. Even Beimo, built to embody play and joy, carries the same capacity for being unkind. But rather than cruelty, it comes across like the bluntness of a child who hasn't learned tact.
He's so smart. I bet he could even fix Neptr. What? Neptr is so cute now. I'm going to start treating him as an equal.
There's also the time Beimo started deleting their own files just because it gave them a rush. It wasn't an accident. He admitted it felt good, like a strange high. That choice says a lot. Beimo wasn't following programming. He was chasing a feeling. It's reckless, yes, but it's also strangely human, chasing a sensation just to see what it feels like. It shows a kind of self-awareness and desire that feels undeniably human. These moments remind us that Beimo isn't just a symbol of pure innocence. He was capable of mistakes, selfishness, even darker impulses. And that's exactly why he works as a character. What makes someone real isn't perfection. It's the flaws and strengths that make them whole. That complexity makes Beimo more than a toy. Their flaws don't erase their identity, they complete it. Beimo becomes one of the most important voices in Oo's story. It's fitting, really. Some of Adventure Time's biggest moments rest on their tiny shoulders. In Come Along With Me, when the world is falling apart, it isn't Finn or Jake or even Princess Bubblegum who holds everything together. It's Beimo. Standing in the middle of Golb's chaos, he sang Time Adventure, a song about impermanence, about living in the present. For a character who spends most of the show playing games, this becomes their most profound act. Ooh isn't saved by strength at that moment. It's saved by Beimo's ability to bring calm.
My art is a weapon!
1,000 years later, in the far-off future, Beimo becomes king of Ooh. Out of everyone, it's the playful, imaginative console who lasts. That might seem surprising at first, but it makes perfect sense. Imagination, resilience, and joy. These are the qualities that endure when everything else falls away. There's something bittersweet about it. Finn and Jake are long gone, their names fading into history. But Beimo carries forward, still smiling, still telling stories. He was one of the last reminders of the world we knew, and a sign of the one still to come. And in Fiona and Cake, Beimo shows us one last act of love. After admitting everyone around them had turned to dust, Beimo dressed as Princess Bubblegum to keep the memory of the kingdom alive. And when Simon, Fiona, and Cake arrived, Beimo chose to give their heart to power Prismo's remote. It doesn't work, the device stays dead, but Beimo does it anyway. He gave everything he had, down to their very heart, as an act of hope. And when Simon, Fiona, and Cake bury Beimo in that barren world, it's clear. What defined them was never circuitry. It was the willingness to give themselves away. Beimo's final role shows us having a sense of self isn't about how long you last or how strong you are. It's about the impact you have, the perspective you bring, and the hope you leave behind. So what does it really mean to have a sense of self? For Beimo, it was never about striving, or proving anything, or even about becoming human. Their identity wasn't in their hardware or their programming. It was in the way he lived, in their play, in their imagination, in the care he gave to Finn and Jake, and in the hope he carried even when everything else was gone. The lesson is simple. A sense of self isn't about chasing perfection or clinging to power. It's about holding on to your inner child, the part of you that still imagines, boldly explores the things you like, and still finds joy in the middle of fear. And it's about knowing that sometimes the truest expression of who we are is what we're willing to share. That's why, out of everyone in Ooh, Beimo stands out. Not through strength or speeches, but through their curiosity, their quirks, and their childlike wonder. In the end, it's the simple way Beimo lived with love that shows us where a true sense of self comes from.
I wrote this song for my head!